Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started. Alright, first question. Jason, you are a big fan of dairy yet reject whey. Why? I don't reject whey. I think whey is fine as a protein source, but the issue I have is kind of like I said in the thing down below. When you start cutting all the stuff out of dairy so that you can get a single macronutrient like butter, and butter's a perfect example. Butter has piss poor, horrible nutritional value, even though dairy is amazing. It's because most of the good stuff found in your dairy gets removed when you separate the cream out, right? When you take just the cream. We won't even get into the processing of the cream and why it's a problem when it makes butter. The churning creates its own set of problems, but you basically made a highly processed, nutritionally void hunk of calories is what you've done, okay? The only reason ever to consume butter is because you want to gain weight really, really fast. Right? That would be the only possible benefit. So you come over to whey, and whey takes and gives you a very, very, very high quality protein. It is a waste product, though. Whey is a waste product from the cheese industry that people have used to make a product that is a high quality protein source. And I have no issue with that. It's an ultra high quality protein source. But it's not dairy. It's not dairy in the beneficial regard any more than butter is. Butter, a refined fat source. Whey, a refined protein source. Ultra high quality protein, but everything else has been stripped out of it. What do I mean? Well, look at the nutritional value. Look at the calcium. What is one of the number one reasons we do dairy? The calcium. The magnesium. The B12, right? That is why dairy is absolutely amazing. Those three things, while being included in an ultra high quality protein source with an extremely high bioavailability and amino acid profile. It's a superior protein. But those other things are the nutrition powerhouses. That's what makes milk, that's what makes yogurts, even Greek yogurts, so phenomenal. Most of it's been stripped out of the whey just to get the whey. And casein has its own benefits outside of whey. And you've removed all the casein, which is 80% of the milk protein, just to get a protein source. It's just, you would be better off just doing real food. You would be better off from a total balanced nutrition perspective. And no one has trouble getting protein outside of vegans. All right, look at our protein needs. I've discussed it in vast detail. Sorry, if you're eating 2,500 calories on a whole food omnivore diet, the odds is that you're not hitting your optimal protein. You would actually have to be going out of your way to do it. You would actually have to be reducing meat and dairy to even have any chance of it happening. It's just not that hard. All right, next question. I've seen you do shrugs occasionally, but not regularly in the last couple of years. Do you ever give them to clients, or you just think that they are essentially redundant when sufficient rows, laterals, and high pulls are performed? I think you could pull the last two out. Let's be honest here. Are you doing face pulls? You doing rear delt flies? Either one of those, plus lots of rowing. Right? That alone makes shrugs redundant. If someone truly has an extreme trap weak link, let's come over to that. If traps are truly your weakest link in your entire body, right? Shrugs make sense. They make sense. No, I'm not going to argue against that. Especially if you need some extra grip work. Heavy shrugs without straps, right? It's a good exercise for that. I'm not going to argue that. A shrug can be a good exercise. But what if traps are not the weakest muscle in your body? You can build massive traps with the other things. If your volumes and workloads are sufficient, if you're pushing your rows super hard. You're pushing your rows super hard. Right? It'd be fine. You don't necessarily need the shrugs. There's no point in doing them. But again, we come over, people say, well, what if I just want the extra trap work? Well, what's your recovery look like? Shrug is a high axial loading exercise. You are putting a lot of axial loading on your body. That will impact your recovery. Are you already doing your speed pulls and stuff? Already doing your rows? You know, you've got to assess, is it worth it in terms of the overall recovery hit to your body? Or could you just be doing more rowing and some face pulls and stuff? Rear delt flies, whatever you need to do, and build your traps up. Movements that give you other benefits with less axial loading that actually work more than one thing. You know, that's a reason I don't use them that often. They're not useless. Shrugs are a good exercise in the right application. But it's still about the balance of your overall program. On a good balanced strength program where you're paying attention to your upper back, a true trap weakness probably really isn't there, right? Probably not going to be there to the point to where you're going to need to do a bunch of shrugs and then deal with the extra axial loading from it. But if they are a true weak link and you can afford the recovery issues from it, then they still might be beneficial. All right, next question. If a female is primarily, good, I'm glad you used the word primarily instead of exclusively, interested in lower body hypertrophy, should you still do 1 rep max? Should you deadlift or stick with the RDL, GM, and hip thrust as primary lower body movements along with squats? You shouldn't be sticking to only a handful of movements unless you're a novice. Let's jump to that part first. I don't prescribe hip thrusts. There are better exercises in the hip thrusts that don't put the same risk of stress on your low back as you get as strong on it. And I'm someone who did a lot of hip thrusts for a while. I got very strong at them. RDLs, GMs, those are fine. Squats, box squats. But where's the rest of it? I mean, if you're talking about hip thrusts, I mean, let's talk about doing hyperextensions. Let's talk about reverse hypers. Right? Where's all that stuff? You can even do machine lower body work, belt squats, single leg exercises, leg presses. That's what we need to be talking about, all of this. You need to be rotating movements once you're out of your novice phase. Like if you want to get really big, and in this case of women, really jacked lower body, which is very hard to do. I mean, you guys see my client Emma. That's what happens when you're drug free and you push maximum hypertrophy. You get decent size, you don't get massive. All right. It shouldn't just be sticking to three exercises, though. You need variation. It's how we get hurt. This is why people have overuse problems. Why they have injuries sticking to 3 or 4 exercises. Again, outside of the rank novice phase. As to the 1 rep max, do you not care about strength? Do you not care about athleticism? Do you not care about force production? I assume those are secondary concerns. If we say primary, it means good, we care about other things. Because if someone tells me their primary, the only thing they care about is hypertrophy, they don't literally mean that. Because if they did, I would be like, well, then you would sell your body to buy unlimited amounts of trenbolone and use copious amounts of it with no concern for the laws, no concern for the health consequences, nothing else, because you only care about hypertrophy, right? It's my reply to that line. But since you said primarily, well, don't you want to be strong? Don't you want to be able to produce force? Yeah, you need to be doing 1 rep maxes. We need to be doing speed work. Right? We need to be doing conjugate training. This is what I promote. This is what I give to my clients. Once you're out of the novice phase, this is what I think you should do. And conjugate includes maxing twice a week on rotating exercises. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.